Good afternoon, everybody. Brian Neubert here from goldenblack.com. Not necessarily in the pale moonlight of Mackey Arena this week, but maybe in the late afternoon glow here. This is your wrap video following Purdue's 97-40 post-Thanksgiving win over Omaha. This is brought to you by our friends at the Purdue Club Hotel and the 811 restaurant. Please keep them in mind for all of your Purdue visits or your general leisure, however you want to term it. This was the most important game of the season for Purdue here today, and I'll tell you why. Because these games that are played here in Mackey Arena, fans come to them, they buy tickets, they spend their money on things like hot dogs and popcorn and various other treats. They buy those little foil pom-poms that our cats like to eat at home, and you have 18 of these on your schedule this year. 18 of them counting an exhibition game. And had this game not been played, there only would have been 17. So this was the most important game of the season. Other than that, this was a foregone conclusion sort of game in the sort of unfortunate mismatch that basically the college basketball season requires as part of its ecosystem. Purdue generally tries to avoid games like this due to the pragmatic nature of NCAA tournament qualification these days, but at the end of the day, you do have to have a few of these on your schedule to fill out your season ticket package for all of the reasons I just mentioned earlier. Omaha will be one of those 300-plus net rankings teams that do not help your resume one bit. They help your win total, but not your resume one bit. And I will take this opportunity once again to bang one of my favorite drums of the preseason in college basketball, that what the NCAA ought to do for the overall health of the game is they ought to exempt every team's lowest 2 or 3 RPI wins only, not losses, wins. Exempt those off a team's NCAA tournament resume so that you are not penalizing Purdue or Duke or North Carolina or Michigan or Kansas, whoever it may be. You're not penalizing them for scheduling Chicago State or South Carolina Upstate or Maryland Eastern Shore or a lot of these teams that have to play these games in order to have an athletic department. But now you've given your NCAA tournament qualifiers every reason in the world not to schedule these teams. There's always going to be games to go around because you got to fill your schedules, but you have given your most resourced programs in your sport reason to treat these teams like the plague, to avoid them at all costs, and that is not healthy for the lower end of the Division I spectrum. These teams need these games to subsist. That is precisely the reason why Omaha just played 5 road games in 13 days, starting in Indiana, moving on to Kansas, then Montana, then West Texas, and then back to Indiana. That alone told you everything you needed to know about how this game was going to play out, and that's exactly how it played out, because Purdue scored 29 straight points seconds into the game and took any measure of suspense out of the outcome here today. And not that there ever should have been any. This being one of those games where Purdue could have played in its socks and won this game. They could have decided to play without jumping of any kind and probably won this game. That's probably overstatement, but you understand what I'm getting at here. These are colossal mismatches, and anybody who tries to apply any sort of relevance to the result is generally blowing smoke up your what. I think from a coverage perspective, you have to be honest with your viewers and readers and address the game for what it is and not what folks might want it to be, whatever I'm trying to say there, but very little relevance in this game. That being said, I will torture logic and pull some logical gymnastics here to apply some context to this otherwise highly forgettable game today. I do think, games like this can be, kind of mental tests, character tests, attention span tests, whatever it might be for a team like Purdue coming off a huge last weekend in Connecticut, then kind of sitting around for a holiday and then playing at 2 o'clock on a Friday afternoon against an opponent that a lot of teams would not have taken seriously. For Purdue to come out here and not necessarily play with its food and, do what you would expect to happen right away without kind of screwing around, without looking bad, without there not really being any sort of appearance of a hangover, I think probably tells you something about this team's ability to, be professional about things like this, to legitimately, I don't want to say respect opponents, but respect the platform, respect the process, so to speak. So Purdue leaving absolutely no doubt about this from the very beginning. I think probably you can take some positive from that. I think, it's important in games like this to get guys minutes, and I think that the only player that really pertains to at this point, Caleb Furst, has played enough now where I think he's probably out of that mode where you just have to get him minutes at all costs to accelerate his growth process. That's not to say he's a finished product or will be a finished product anytime soon. I think that player is now Mason Gillis. I think, him sitting out the first 4 games of the season puts him in a situation now where he's got to get up to speed. He has to get in a flow, so to speak. He's got to, gain some more game experience here, and I think getting him 17 and a half minutes, regardless of the context, was, a valuable part of today. You saw him in the second half kind of appear from out of nowhere for an offensive rebound, finish it off for an N1, did a very positive Mason Gillis type of thing. If you can get him kind of playing the way this season he was playing last season in a much more expanded role, I think that would be a very positive thing for Purdue as well. There's people up in the concourse wondering what the hell I'm doing, and I would be doing the same thing if the roles were reversed. So I think getting Mason Gillis some extended run here was a very positive thing in terms of getting him back into what you want him to be, need him to be. He's still going to have to carve out a niche for himself on this team. He's still going to provide value, probably in a little bit of a different way he had to provide value last year. Obviously, Caleb Furst has that position on lockdown now, I would think, but that doesn't mean there's not a place on this team for some of the things, the intangibles Mason Gillis can provide, the shot making from that position, the effort, the strength, the physicality. I think, he can find a real place for himself on this team. It might not be over a 20-minute a game sort of deal, but it might be over a 12 to 15-minute deal, and that's fine. That's what this team has to be all about this year. They have to all understand that we all might not be leading men this year. We might all have to play half of the role we'd be playing, otherwise on a different sort of team, but we're winning, and winning has to be enough in a lot of cases. And by every account, and Travion Williams is the face of this, they look like they're going to be okay in that regard. Now, granted, it's only been 6 games, but this does seem like a team that's doing all the right things, carrying themselves the right way, all of that stuff, so on and so forth. The other guy who I think there might be a little bit of relevance to in this game was Brandon Newman. Newman was one of the guys in Connecticut who maybe didn't get a rhythm going, maybe didn't have his opportunity to do something really big that led to a really big win. He comes in today, sees the ball go in. He's had a couple of these games this year where he shot the ball really, really well. He gets 16 points in 17 and a half minutes. Now, granted, those weren't exactly high-leverage moments. Any roughness around the edges at the defensive end of the floor for anybody who played for Purdue today will get wiped away like sand on the beach against lowering tides. So it doesn't really matter, but for him to come and experience some success probably was a positive thing. Purdue's going to need him at some point this year. Purdue's going to need him to make a shot. Purdue's going to need him to impact the game at some point. Just like every guy on this team is going to get an opportunity this year in a big moment, in a big game, probably to do something positive. And I think the more you can keep Brandon Newman moving in a direction where he's going to be ready for that moment, he's a damn good player. This might not necessarily be his moment right now because this team is so stacked, but this is a guy who's got a chance to be a really, really good player at Purdue. And, Matt Painter said, what you can't do is try to squeeze 40 minutes into 10 minutes or whatever he said, in terms of when you're coming off the bench in a lesser role, don't try to squeeze a whole game into just a couple of minutes. And he said that in the context of Newman didn't necessarily do that today, but he did get up 9 shots in 17 and a half minutes. So he certainly he certainly got his shots. He really was productive today. Again, low leverage sort of moments, not really all of that big a deal. What he did or what anybody else did in moments once Purdue was up by 30 points in the first half. That being said, the ball going in the basket is better than the ball not going in the basket every single time. And when it's a player like Newman, who I think is still probably trying to figure out, where he fits in, how he can best fit in terms of the overall mosaic of this team. Excellent use of the word mosaic, I have to say. If it was the proper use of the word mosaic, I'm not even sure. I don't know if that's something that can apply to basketball, but be that as it may, I think it was a very positive thing that Brandon Newman played well. So that's pretty much what I've got from this game. Kind of along the lines of what I mentioned before, taking care of business right from the outset. Purdue didn't screw around here. Purdue went right to the area you go to when you don't want to mess around here. They went to Edey inside against a 6'7" dude who had no chance whatsoever, and they got it done. They went inside first. Edey dominated. Travion Williams came in. He dominated. They started playing inside out. Purdue got a bunch of threes. They got transition threes. They got inside outside half court threes, and just was off to the races. So Purdue didn't mess around. They went right to their strengths early. Didn't try to get cute. Didn't try to carry out this kind of meandering song and dance that sometimes teams do when they're just out there to kind of have fun. So that's basically all I can possibly think of to say about this game. It's Thanksgiving, so was Thanksgiving. Just wanted to thank everybody once again for supporting this funny little endeavor that we all have going, where we write, we talk, we video ourselves after games, talk about Purdue basketball. Wouldn't be possible without your enthusiasm. The one thing the pandemic has taught me, I've been through a bunch of stuff here the last couple of years, but the one thing I think the pandemic has taught me is to just be grateful for everything you have. I know that sounds like a ridiculous Hallmark movie sort of message, but to be honest with you, there was one night I was sitting around late at night, and I turned on PBS, and Ray Wiley Hubbard was playing at Austin City Limits on PBS, and the lyric to his one song came on there where he says, "On the days I keep my gratitude higher than my expectations, I have really good days." And that has been something that has really resonated with me here the last few months, in terms of the fact I was so fortunate to come through the pandemic without really feeling it, to not get COVID, to not get put out of business financially, things like that, but also the fact that so many people are so enthusiastic about this silly child's play sort of endeavor we have here, where I get paid to watch football and basketball and tell you about it afterwards, and the enthusiasm that comes from all of our many channels is just overwhelming, and oftentimes honestly just fills my heart. And I just wanted, on this Thanksgiving, I just wanted to kind of say thank you to all of you, whether you subscribe to our website, whether you're just following on Twitter, you're just following on YouTube, whatever it might be. Thank you so much for all of it. We really appreciate it. Not a day goes by that I don't appreciate everything that you all have done for me. So before I start crying, I will say thank you for watching, thank you for reading, and thank you for listening. And I'm not really going to cry. That was a joke. And thank you for processing our materials, however you process our materials. Once again, thank you to the Purdue Club Hotel and the 811 Restaurant for all of your continued support. And that's all I got. Tuesday night, Purdue plays Florida State. Back to Purdue playing some more of these high leverage games after obviously filling a slot on the schedule here today with Omaha. So thank you, everybody. Have a good one.